Flames roared across the shattered temple as Adrian staggered forward, clutching his chest where glowing embers seeped from his skin. Selene cried out, her eyes wide with fear, as Kale dragged her into the shadows. "Adrian, don't," she begged, but her voice broke under the weight of smoke and betrayal. Adrian's power surged uncontrollably, the ancient fire within him breaking chains he never knew bound him. The air trembled, stones splitting beneath his feet. Selene's tears burned like molten glass as Kale whispered, "She is mine now." Adrian's scream ripped through the night, part anguish, part fury, as wings of fire unfurled from his back, shaking the earth with the sound of destiny. The flames subsided into smoldering ash, leaving the temple broken and hollow. Adrian fell to his knees, gasping, his fiery wings folding back into glowing scars on his shoulders. Selene struggled against Kale's grasp, her voice raw with desperation. "You can't take him from me," she cried, but Kale's laughter cut sharp through the smoke. Adrian's vision blurred, his power drained, yet the spark of defiance still burned in his eyes. Selene's gaze locked with his, a silent promise that neither chains nor shadows could sever the bond now forged in fire. The ground trembled as Kale dragged Selene away from the ruins, his grip unyielding. She fought fiercely, her gown tearing further as she shouted Adrian's name. He stumbled forward, each step heavy, his body weakened by unleashed power. "I will find you," he growled, his voice hoarse but filled with fire. Kale sneered, twisting Selene's wrist as he answered, "You will die before you touch her again." Sparks ignited around Adrian's feet, his determination forcing the last embers of his strength to rise against Kale's dark shadow. Selene's struggles turned desperate as Kale lifted her easily, his strength unnatural, his armor gleaming with cruel precision. Adrian's fists clenched, fire seeping through his skin as he advanced, yet every step tore his body apart. "Adrian, stop," Selene cried, fearing the fire would consume him entirely. Kale leaned closer to her, his voice a venomous whisper, "He is too broken to save you." Adrian's rage flared, and though his body trembled, the fire inside him rose with her cry, forming a halo of burning defiance around his frame. A thunderous crack split the night as Elyndor appeared at the temple's edge, staff in hand, eyes glowing with ancient power. His voice echoed like rolling storms, "Enough." Kale faltered, stepping back as shadows recoiled from the old magic. Selene collapsed to the ground, gasping, her eyes darting to Adrian's broken form. Elyndor's gaze pierced the fireborn chaos, his hand steadying Adrian as he whispered, "Your time has not ended." Adrian's fire dimmed to embers, his body falling against Elyndor's support, yet hope sparked in the silence left behind. The forest swallowed the ruins behind them as Elyndor guided Adrian through the ancient path, his staff glowing faintly against the mist. Selene limped beside them, her breath uneven, her eyes never leaving Adrian's face. "You must rest," she whispered, but Adrian shook his head, the fire within him flickering against exhaustion. Elyndor's voice was low, filled with warning. "What you unleashed cannot be hidden now. The world will hunt the flame that burns in your chest." Adrian clenched his jaw, replying, "Let them come." Yet in Selene's gaze he saw fear not for herself, but for him, and that fear weighed heavier than the chains of destiny. They reached a stone clearing where Elyndor drew a circle with his staff, runes sparking alive across the moss-covered ground. Adrian lowered himself carefully, his body trembling under the weight of unseen fire. Selene crouched near, her hand brushing his, grounding him in silence. Elyndor's tone grew grave. "Your flames are bound to her soul, Adrian. Without her, the power will consume you." Adrian's gaze snapped to Selene, searching her expression, but she did not flinch. "Then I will not leave his side," she answered, her voice steady though her hands shook. In that moment, the bond was no longer unspoken. The air shimmered as Elyndor began the incantation, his staff sending waves of light across the clearing. Adrian gritted his teeth, fire bursting beneath his skin as the runes flared. Selene gripped his arm, whispering, "Stay with me." The flames surged, but her touch steadied him, pulling him back from the abyss. Elyndor's voice thundered. Her presence anchors you. Without her, the bond shatters. Adrian gasped, the fire subsiding under Selene's steady gaze. I will not let you fall, she said fiercely. For the first time since the flames awakened, Adrian believed he could endure without being consumed. The glow dimmed, leaving Adrian drained yet alive, his breathing ragged. Elyndor lowered his staff, sweat tracing his temple. The bond is sealed, but it has drawn attention. His gaze swept toward the tree line, voice darkening. Kale's spies will not rest. Selene straightened, fire in her eyes. Let them come. He is not alone anymore. Adrian met her gaze, silent gratitude burning deeper than words. For the first time, strength returned not from the fire within, but from the bond beside him. Shadows flickered at the forest's edge, unseen eyes watching, promising the calm would not last. Mira stumbled into the clearing, panting, her cloak torn and dirt streaking her face. They're coming, she gasped, pointing behind her. Adrian pushed to his feet, swaying but resolute. Selene reached to steady him, but his hand lifted to reassure her. I will stand. Elyndor's jaw tightened, staff sparking faintly. Mira's eyes darted between them, fear mingled with stubborn courage. You don't understand. It's not Kale, it's Darius. The name hung heavy in the clearing, cutting through the air sharper than any blade. Adrian froze, fire in his veins trembling not with rage, but with the ache of memory. The forest clearing fell into silence as Mira's words lingered, heavy with dread. Adrian froze, his emberlit scars pulsing faintly. Selene's breath caught, her lips forming the name again in disbelief. Darius. Elyndor's staff trembled slightly, his voice sharp. The fallen one returns. Mira nodded, her eyes wide with fear. He walks with Kale's shadow. Adrian's chest tightened, memory flashing like fire through his veins. Darius, once his brother in arms, now a ghost twisted by betrayal. Selene touched Adrian's arm, whispering, You are not alone this time. His fire burned, not in rage but in sorrow. Shadows stretched at the tree line as a figure stepped forward, his armor dulled by ash, his face pale beneath raven hair. Darius' eyes burned with conflict, both haunted and fierce. Adrian's breath shuddered, a whisper escaping. You were dead. Darius' lips curved in a broken smile. Perhaps I should have stayed that way. Selene moved closer to Adrian, sensing the ache in his voice. Darius' gaze flicked to her, sharp with unspoken regret, before settling back on Adrian. Kale gave me purpose when you left me behind. The words pierced deeper than any blade, reopening scars of loyalty lost. Adrian stepped forward, his voice breaking between fury and grief. I searched for you, Darius. I bled for you. Darius' hand tightened on his blade, his expression torn. You chose the flame over me. Selene whispered. This isn't you, but Darius' laugh was hollow. This is all that's left of me. The fire along Adrian's scars flared as he reached out. You were my brother. For a moment, Darius's eyes softened, flickering with the shadow of who he once was, but the darkness in him surged back, swallowing the glimmer of light. I am Kale's now. Elyndor's voice cut through the rising tension. This bond of flame and shadow will end in ruin if unchecked. Darius snarled, lifting his blade toward Adrian. Then let it end tonight. Mira stumbled forward, her voice desperate. Don't do this, we need you. Darius' jaw tightened, his expression breaking before hardening again. Adrian clenched his fists, fire flickering along his arms. If you truly stand with Kale, then you stand against me. Selene's eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered, Don't make him choose. The night trembled, the forest alive with the weight of betrayal and love lost. The clash came sudden as steel met flame, sparks exploding across the clearing. Adrian fought with raw fury, fire blazing from every strike, while Darius countered with brutal precision, his blade fueled by shadow. Selene screamed, rushing forward, but Mira pulled her back. He must face this, Elyndor warned, his eyes grim. Each blow carried years of love, loss, and betrayal, the air alive with their shared history. Brother, stop. Adrian cried between strikes, but Darius roared, I cannot. The night burned with their war, and in every spark was the ghost of the bond they once shared. The clash ended in silence, both Adrian and Darius collapsing to their knees, fire and shadow fading into the night. Selene rushed between them, her hands trembling as she touched Adrian's face. His ember scars glowed faintly, flickering like dying stars. Darius turned away, his voice hoarse with regret. You should have let me fall long ago. Elyndor raised his staff, but Adrian lifted a hand weakly. No, he is mine to face. Selene's heart twisted, her voice cracking as she whispered, You'll destroy yourself. Yet Adrian's gaze burned, caught between love and loyalty, refusing to yield. Darius staggered back into the shadows, his voice bitter. Kael waits for the bond to break. When it does, he will claim her soul. Selene froze, her eyes wide as Adrian's chest seared with sudden pain. Elyndor spoke sharply. The prophecy was twisted. The phoenix is not bound by his flame alone. He is bound by love. Adrian's breath caught, his body trembling as the fire surged uncontrollably. Selene gripped his hand, her voice steady despite her fear. Then I will not let go. Darius' gaze softened for a moment, but his figure faded, swallowed by shadow once more. Adrian's fire burst outward, shaking the ground as Elyndor carved protective runes into the soil. Mira shielded her eyes, shouting, He's burning alive. Selene pressed her forehead to Adrian's, her voice breaking. Stay with me, don't let it take you. The fire roared, but her touch steadied the inferno, pulling it back from chaos. Elyndor's tone softened, almost mournful. She is his anchor, but if the bond falters, both will fall. Adrian gasped, locking eyes with Selene, seeing her strength where his own wavered. Then I will fall with her, he whispered, fire dimming under her tears. The flame subsided, leaving Adrian limp against Selene's arms, his scars glowing faint but controlled. Elyndor lowered his staff, his voice grave. The bond has revealed its cost. Love will save him, but it will also mark you. Selene's heart pounded, her hands tightening around Adrian. Then mark me, she answered firmly. Mira looked at her in shock, whispering, You would give everything? Selene nodded, tears tracing her cheeks. He already has everything. Adrian stirred faintly, whispering her name, and Selene pressed her lips to his brow, sealing her choice. The forest grew silent, as though fate had listened. The silence shattered as Kael's voice rolled through the forest, deep and mocking. So the phoenix binds himself with mortal chains. Shadows thickened, and Kael emerged, armor gleaming crimson in the firelight. Selene stood, her body shielding Adrian, her eyes blazing with defiance. Elyndor raised his staff, sparks crackling, while Mira pulled a dagger from her cloak. Adrian struggled to rise, Selene's hand steadying him as he whispered, Together. Kael's smirk widened. Together, you will burn. Thoris trembled as power gathered, destiny closing in on them like a storm long awaited. Kael's shadow spread across the clearing, his voice dripping with triumph. Did Elyndor not tell you the truth? The phoenix fire was never his to wield, it was hers. Selene froze, her heart hammering, as Adrian's eyes widened with shock. Elyndor's face darkened, silence betraying guilt. What does he mean? Adrian demanded, fire flickering wildly at his skin. Kael stepped closer, his smile cold. Her soul is the vessel. Without her, you are nothing. Selene gasped, realizing her life had always been the cost. Adrian staggered, torn between fury at Elyndor and terror of losing her forever. Elyndor's voice trembled as he spoke. The prophecy was misread. The phoenix fire is not his burden alone, it is shared. Selene was always meant to carry half. Selene shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. You knew, and said nothing. Adrian turned to Elyndor, betrayal burning in his eyes. You condemned her to this? Elyndor bowed his head, sorrow etched into his face. I feared the truth would destroy you both. Kale's laughter split the silence. And now it shall. The bond that gave Adrian strength twisted into a cruel revelation, heavier than chains. Selene stepped forward, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. If my soul is the vessel, then I choose what to do with it. Adrian reached for her, his voice cracking. No, I won't let you sacrifice yourself. She turned to him, her gaze fierce. You gave me fire. I will give you strength. Kale smirked, amused at their defiance. Such touching devotion, yet devotion is fragile. Elyndor raised his staff, trying to cut through the growing tension. Choice is the heart of prophecy. It was never about fate, but about love. Darius emerged from the shadows once more, his face torn with guilt. Kale twists the truth, but not all of it is lies. Adrian glared, his fists burning. Why should I believe you? Darius' eyes flicked to Selene, pained. Because I once bore the bond, and it broke me. Silence fell, heavy with revelation. Selene looked at him, horror dawning. You loved him too. Darius nodded, his voice breaking. And I betrayed him for it. Adrian's fire dimmed with sorrow, but Kale's laughter grew louder, feeding on every fracture of loyalty. The weight of truth pressed on them all, but Selene stood taller, her voice unwavering. The bond is not curse nor chain. It is choice. And I choose him. Adrian's chest burned with both pain and awe as he whispered, Selene. Kale's eyes narrowed, fury twisting his face. Then you choose death. Elyndor lifted his staff, Mira stepped to Selene's side, and Darius lowered his blade, torn between past and present. Adrian drew himself up, ember fire flaring stronger than before, fueled not by destiny, but by love. The war of truth and lies was set. The ground trembled as Kale raised his hands, shadows spiraling into a storm that swallowed the trees. Adrian pushed to his feet, fire surging brighter than before, his scars blazing like molten rivers. Selene stood at his side, her hand gripping his, their bond crackling with light. Elyndor steadied his staff, chanting words that bent the air with old magic, while Mira held her dagger, determination burning through fear. Kale's laughter rolled like thunder. This is where love dies, and power reigns. Adrian's eyes narrowed, his voice fierce. No, this is where love begins to burn. Kale lunged forward, his blade carved from darkness itself, colliding with Adrian's flames. Sparks and shadows clashed violently, filling the night with deafening roars. Selene cried out, her hand reaching as their bond lit the air with fiery light, tethering Adrian's strength to hers. Elyndor raised his staff, deflecting a wave of shadow energy aimed at Mira, who rolled to her feet with grit in her eyes. Kale sneered as his power swelled, pressing Adrian to his knees. You are weak because you love. Adrian roared back. I am strong because I do. The fire surged higher. The ground split open, lava seeping from cracks as fire and shadow tore the clearing apart. Selene ran to Adrian, pressing her hand to his chest, channeling her soul into the bond. His flames steadied, their light burning brighter together. Kale staggered for a moment, eyes narrowing in fury. Elyndor's voice thundered. The bond is stronger than prophecy, it is choice made flesh. Mira hurled her dagger, striking Kale's shoulder, breaking his focus. Adrian seized the opening, flames erupting into wings of blazing light, his roar shaking the forest. Selene whispered, we fight as one. Kale roared, summoning a tidal wave of darkness that blotted out the stars. Adrian shielded Selene, his flames clashing against the void. Elyndor planted his staff, light spreading across the runes beneath their feet, sealing a protective circle. Mira rushed to Selene, gripping her arm. Don't break the bond. Selene nodded, fire blazing in her eyes. She kissed Adrian's lips briefly, her soul pouring into his. The fire around him roared higher, consuming Kale's darkness with radiant fury. Kale's armor cracked, his voice dripping venom. "If I fall, I'll drag you into ash with me." The climax erupted as Adrian's wings of fire engulfed Kale, flames searing through shadow, burning the night sky with blinding light. Selene's hand remained locked with his, her strength keeping the fire steady. Kale screamed, his armor shattering as he fought against the inferno. Darius appeared at the edge of the battle, torn between helping or watching Kale fall. Elyndor shouted, "Finish it!" Adrian looked at Selene, his voice breaking. "If I end him, I may burn with him." Selene's tear fell onto his hand. "Then we burn together." Their fire roared in unison, consuming Kale. Silence fell after Kale's scream faded into ash, the forest scorched and broken. Adrian collapsed to his knees, flames retreating into faint scars along his skin. Selene fell with him, clutching his hand, her breath ragged but steady. Elyndor lowered his staff, his voice heavy with relief. "The shadow is ended, but its cost remains." Mira stumbled closer, her dagger falling from her trembling hand. Darius lingered in the distance, his face etched with torment, unable to step forward. Selene pressed her forehead to Adrian's, whispering, "You lived. That is enough for me." Adrian's voice cracked as he spoke. "If you had not held me, I would have burned with him." Selene shook her head, determination shining through her tears. "No, Adrian. We held each other." Elyndor's eyes softened, his tone gentle. "The bond you forged was never a curse. It was the choice to endure together." Mira wiped her face, offering a faint smile. "Then maybe hope survived after all." Darius turned away, muttering bitterly, "Hope does not absolve betrayal." His shadow faded, leaving grief in his wake. Adrian whispered, Selene's name as if it alone kept him whole. Elyndor placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder. "The fire will never leave you, but it no longer rules you." Adrian met his gaze, nodding faintly. Selene helped him stand, her body leaning into his, strength flowing both ways. Mira glanced around the ruined clearing, her voice wry. "So what now? We rebuild the world from ashes?" Selene looked at Adrian, her smile fragile but bright. "We rebuild from love." His scars glowed faintly, not with fury but with calm, each ember a reminder of what they survived together. Elyndor whispered, "The phoenix rises not alone, but with flame shared." They began to walk from the ruins, the forest slowly breathing again, with soft winds carrying away the smoke. Selene's hand never left Adrian's, her grip fierce as if to anchor him to life itself. Mira trailed behind, humming a broken tune, her voice raw but hopeful. Elyndor followed with slow, deliberate steps, his staff flickering with faint light. Adrian looked at Selene, whispering, "You gave me more than power, you gave me purpose." Selene answered softly, "And you gave me love worth dying for." The weight of battle lingered, but their bond glowed brighter than scars. At the edge of the forest, the horizon blazed with dawn, sky painted in fire-red hues. Adrian pulled Selene close, pressing his lips to hers, a kiss heavy with promise and survival. Mira turned away, smiling faintly, while Elyndor lifted his gaze to the sky as if honoring destiny fulfilled. The wind carried ash and petals together, scattering them across the earth. Adrian whispered against Selene's lips, "From ashes we rise." Her eyes shimmered as she answered, "Together." Their silhouettes framed against the burning dawn, their love eternal, their bond unbroken, their story sealed in fire.